Hey everyone, this is David Brown with the migration update for May 6th, 2023 from the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. Kim and I started out the morning at the Firehouse Woods, and there was good songbird migration last night, and this was the first day that there was really a good variety and good number of warblers and other neotropical migrants around. So beautiful sunny morning with calm winds, a little bit chilly to start with, around 40 degrees around sunrise, and then quickly warming up. Just an absolutely beautiful early May spring day to be out looking for warblers. We only spent a short time in the Firehouse Woods, but we did have a few things such as ovenbird, and then we went back across the street to the church trail, and we ended up walking about a half mile or more, just slowly working our way down, and it was just an absolutely spectacular morning. Like I said, a lot of really good warbler variety, a lot of first of years. Here's an eastern towhee, a large sparrow species, perched up in a tree for us. We had our first of year blue-headed vireos. You can see that they have these white spectacles, so it's sort of an eye ring, except it's not complete in the front, and then the white continues down across the beak, almost like they're wearing glasses. Here's a palm warbler jumping up to catch a bug, and another look at a palm warbler posing nicely in the morning sun. It's not the greatest photo ever, but here's a warbling vireo. Warbling vireos are rather drab. They're kind of similar looking to the much rarer Philadelphia vireo, but those have more yellow on them, especially in the throat. Here's a male black-throated green warbler trying to hide. This Baltimore oriole was just really perched up nicely ahead of us on the trail in a cherry tree, I believe it is, and just gave us an absolutely spectacular look. And the oriole kept reaching into the flowers. And one more look at this male Baltimore oriole with its head out looking at us. At one point we looked up ahead of us and there were like 6 hermit thrushes on the path, which was funny because I don't think we had even seen a hermit thrush up to that point this morning. And this one kept coming closer and closer, so we just stood still, and it actually ended up coming within 10 feet of us, and then I think it realized that we were there, and it hopped off to the side into the bushes. I got over to Braddock Bay Park in time to start the Hawk Watch at 9 a.m., and you can see it was a beautiful sunny morning with somewhat light westerly winds to start the day, and eventually those winds shifted around to a more northerly direction. Here's a turkey vulture, and you can see it's undergoing some molt, growing in some wing feathers, already dropped some tail feathers, and it'll be growing in new ones. And these vultures were the first migrants of the day. There was a group of about 30 or so that came over really low and were circling pretty much over the platform, which was funny because I heard the local Cooper's hawk start calling. If you've been watching my recent videos, you know that Cooper's hawk loves to chase turkey vultures, so here was his chance to chase off a whole flock of 30 of them. Here's an immature bald eagle migrating over. Here we have an adult broad-winged hawk, and we had a pretty steady turkey vulture flight in the morning, and then there were broadwings mixing in, and then as we got to late morning, early afternoon, we had some larger and larger kettles of broadwings, maybe up to 50 or even 100 in the largest group, and they were mostly, at that point, off to our left over the parkway because of the northerly winds. Here's a group of 3 double-crested cormorants. And here's a great blue heron. And we seem to be seeing quite a few great blue herons migrating nowadays. Eventually, those northerly winds pushed the flight line pretty far inland, so we moved over to Frisbee Hill around 1 p.m. And the only raptor photo I took there was this northern harrier. And we actually had a decent number of broadwings from there, but everything was super distant or super high. But for the most part, it was broadwings off to our left, and turkey vultures were kind of on both sides, but just very few birds overhead. Pretty much just a lot of scope views, scoping in past the cell phone tower, trying to spot things that way, or scoping the other direction back in towards the parkway. So even though the total looks like it was a good day, a lot of the views were not very pleasing. Taking a quick look at the eBird checklists, I actually started at the Rocco Trail this morning and had 19 species, including my first of year wood thrush. At the Firehouse Woods, Kim and I had 26 species. At the Church Trail, we had 42 species, including many first of years, which I'll cover in a minute. At Braddock Bay Park, I had 50 species. And at Frisbee Hill, 41 species. Taking a look at the HawkCount report for our migrant raptor totals for today, we had 279 turkey vultures, 2 osprey, 19 bald eagles, 4 northern harriers. For accipiters, we had 30 sharpies and 3 coops. For buteos, we had 1,038 broadwings and 10 red tails. And for falcons, we had 2 kestrels for a total of 1,387 migrant raptors today. That brings the May total to 4,260 and the season total to 41,085. I had a lot of new species for the season, and obviously I'm including the other spots away from the Hawk Watch in this total. It's just easier to do it that way. The new species were wood thrush, Carolina wren, which is actually really hard to get at Frisbee Hill and Braddock Bay Park. They just don't happen there for some reason. So it's an easy bird in general, but I just hadn't gotten one yet. Ovenbird, blue-headed vireo, warbling vireo, black and white warbler, Nashville warbler, black-throated blue warbler, and black-throated green warbler. Taking a look at the forecast for tomorrow, we're looking at some early morning sun and then overcast. The winds are starting out light and southerly, and then throughout the morning are going to shift more easterly and then to a northeast lake breeze by the afternoon. High up around 66, although I'm sure when that lake breeze kicks in, it'll probably drop the temperature. I would expect moderate warbler migration overnight, maybe even good. If you look at birdcast, looks like a lot of warblers should be on the move again, so would be a really good morning to get out and do some songbirding. For the raptor migration, it's mostly going to depend on what the wind does. If it stays southerly a little bit longer into the morning, we might start to get a decent flight, but as that wind shifts around easterly and especially to that northeast lake breeze, we might lose the flight line inland. Might have to move to Frisbee Hill at some point. We'll just get a feel for the conditions. Plus, with the becoming more overcast, maybe that means there won't be thermals for the broadwings to be migrating on. So we'll just play it by ear throughout the day and see where the flight line develops. For Monday, we're looking at intervals of clouds and sun with a high in the low to mid 60s, winds north-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Would expect light to moderate migration. And for Tuesday, considerable clouds early, then some decrease in clouds later, high up around 60 and light northeasterly winds. Expect light migration. All right, well, today ended up being a great day with all of those warblers in the morning, and I know there was a Rochester Birding Association field trip at the Church Trail that we passed. They were on their way in as we were on our way out, so they had perfect weather and just a great morning for that field trip. And it ended up being a surprisingly good hawk flight as well, with over 1,000 birds, lots of broadwings. But like I said, most of them were pretty distant looks, so not the most satisfying day ever and somewhat difficult just having to scan in the distance all the time. But hopefully we'll get some better looks at broadwings sometime soon, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that tomorrow will bring more good birding, at least in the morning. Hope to see you out at the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch sometime soon. From Like Birds, this is David Brown. Thanks for watching.